Today I'm going to show you how to replicate this vintage scale. Now you can make this look as rustic and old or as clean and sleek as you want, but you're going to be able to do it for just a few dollars. Let's get started. Hello, welcome back to the Crafty Organizer. I'm Noreen, and last week I was able to share with you my vintage coffee bar. I had been going antiquing and had seen some pieces that I really loved, but they were not in my budget. And I took it as a challenge to myself to see if I could recreate them using inexpensive dollar store items or things that I could get easily at my hardware store and recreate those things. So I created a scale, a bread box, and these canisters. And I'm going to be showing you how to make each one of those in separate videos. Today we're going to focus on this scale. I am in love with this because you could actually use it to hold fruit or bread or something lightweight, not too heavy, as long as you use similar items to what I'm showing you. Now here are some of the dollar store items you'll want to look for. You'll want one of each: a pie pan, a cake pan because they are different shapes, one of those hanging wire baskets with the chain, and an optional item is a plant hanger if you want to attach it to a wall. Now some of the items you'll want from the hardware store are a U-bolt, an I-bolt, some spray paint, and a chain. And the chain will only be necessary if you can't find the hanging basket with the chains attached to it at your local dollar store. If you're not familiar with hardware, this is an I-bolt and it comes with a nut on it already. And this is a U-bolt and it also comes with the bracket and the nuts. Now, I found these in my bin section and they were super affordable. Most hardware stores do sell chain by the foot and they come in various looks, so find something that appeals to your aesthetic. I got about 2.5 feet and it was at 73 cents per foot, and they have the option to cut it yourself, but if you need assistance, go ahead and ask an associate to help you cut that. The next thing I did was a quick Google search for a scale face. This gave me many options to find the face that I was going to use for the front of my scale. Once you find an image that you like, get it printed on a laser printer. I have an inkjet at home, so I went ahead and took the image to a local Kinko's FedEx because I did not want this to smear and I knew I was going to be Mod Podging it. So if you have a laser printer at home, that's the best. But if not, see if you could take it to a local shop. I think the cost for my color copy was 59 cents. Now it was time to get to the fun part. I used Rust-Oleum. I like this paint because it has a primer in it. I started painting the cake and the pie tin first, and I chose white because I was going for that enamel look. But again, I want to remind you, you don't need to make this vintage. If you have a red or a teal kitchen, you can spray paint it whatever color you want and use a modern scale face. This does not have to be a vintage look. I happen to like the enamel look, so that's what I was going for, and I plan on distressing mine, but you do not have to do that with yours. Then I got out my hardware pieces, which were the U-bolt and the I-bolt, and I used black Rust-Oleum, and I painted those a good solid coat. Once everything was dry, I flipped everything over and gave a second coating where needed and made sure that all sides were covered. Now for the hanging basket, which is going to be the pie tin, I wanted to make sure that it looked good from all sides, so I did spray paint both the top and the underside, and I made sure that one had the best coverage. For the face, it's really just the sides that you're going to be seeing, so you don't have to be as critical on that one, but definitely the pie tin, which is going to be the hanging basket, is where I would make sure you have the best coverage. Once all of my pieces were done, I brought it inside, and it's ready to start assembling. I made sure that the size of my image was the same as my cake pan. I have the chain from the hardware store, but here's what that basket looks like with the chains already attached. This is a super affordable option if you can find them. They're usually out in the spring. And this is what my hardware looks like. I also had S hooks, which I did not show you. Now I've got a grid mat, so it was super easy for me to align the centers, but I just made a small mark so that I knew exactly where the top and bottom were so that I make sure everything is straight. Now, I used a drill for my first hole. I am going to be showing you another option if you're not comfortable with power tools or if you do not have them. But I drilled a hole, and this is going to be for the eye hook. This is where the top of my scale is going to hang. Now, you notice there's a nut at the top. I had a second one that I added to the bottom because I want my scale to be adjustable when I hang it. Now it was time to take that plate and line it up centered to that mark. And here is what that plate looks like. It has 2 holes in it already, so I just lined that up to make my marks. Anytime I'm drilling into metal, I will graduate the sizes. So I'll start with a very skinny drill bit and then move up in size to a larger. If you try and drill with a large bit right away, it's going to dent the item. So I always recommend going a little bit bigger as you need to go. As soon as you are large enough to fit your U-bolt in, I just slid it in and went ahead and attached the bolts. This is going to be the bottom portion where it looks like the scale will actually weigh things. Now I'm ready to attach my face clock, and I'm just going to do a fussy cut all the way around. I'm not worried about it being too exact. I happen to like cutting, so this is always a fun part of the project for me. I want all of the edges to be pretty saturated, so that's where I'm going to focus my Mod Podge, but you can use Elmer's glue or spray mount, but the edges are where you really want a secure hold because that's what's going to make this look real. So get a nice solid coverage of Mod Podge. I put a lighter coating on the middle, but focusing on those edges. I'm going to line up my face so that I have the 0 at the top. Just make sure it's straight. This will give it, again, a really authentic look. Once I get everything pressed down and secure, this part is done. And again, if you don't want to distress it, you are completely finished. If you wanted a different color, you are good to go. Because I did have the basket, I cheated. You will need to find a triangular measurement. I didn't want to do that, so I used the basket. It had 3 points, so I cheated and used that. Now here's an option if you don't have a power tool or if you don't want to drill into something. Get an awl or a nail and just hammer through the tin. It goes through very easily. Do make sure you have something underneath it like a cutting mat or a board so you don't damage your surface. The only thing I want to remind you is make sure it's centered. One of my holes was off center, so it's going to line just a little differently, but that's okay. Now I'm going to take the 3 S-hooks and I'm going to put those through. These are going to hold the chain. Now if you want to use wire like a coat hanger instead, you can customize this any way that you want. But here's where you can see one of those S-hooks went in the wrong space. That's okay. The next thing that I did was get a pair of pliers and I started crimping the S-hook so that the chain wouldn't fall off and it would not fall off of the pie tin. Now here is a crafty organizer mistake time oops. I crimped it first, which meant when I started putting on the chains, I had a heck of a time. So I would recommend not crimping it until you have the chain or the wire onto your S-hooks, because I really had to struggle with this and ended up having to open them back up just to get the chain on. So learn from my mistake. Get the chains or the wire on first, and then you can go ahead and crimp them. So now you see what it looks like hanging. This will attach to the face in just a moment. And I did not show the distressing part of this, but I'll show you a quick clip of that at the end. Now I used one more loop from the chain and I connected all 3 chains to this. The reason I did that is I wanted one flat area that I could attach to the face so that it looks, again, really authentic. If you're not worried about it looking super authentic, you could just use another S-hook to attach it from the face at the U-bolt to the bottom portion. But again, I wanted this to look as authentic as possible. So I am just laying that hook that I just added on top of the bottom of the U-bolt, and I'm using a binder clip. Right now I'm just checking on the sizing. You'll want to do the same thing. These binder clips come in so many different sizes, and the clasp portion comes off so easily that you won't even know that this was a binder clip. So once I made sure that the sizing was correct, I'm going to put the clasp back on so that I can expand it and fit in that little piece. I know this is confusing, but I'm going to show you a little more closely. Here is the clip. Here is that loop that I added, and this would be the binder clip going on top. So really all I'm doing is squeezing that loop to the bottom of that U-bolt so it looks like a welded component. But this is going to give it that illusion that as you put things in the basket, this loop adjusts up and down to actually weigh the items. Now this part is always scary for me, which is why I didn't go over it too much. But if you want the distressed look, I just used the black chalkboard paint that I got from the Dollar Tree. I get an old makeup sponge, but you can use a paper towel or a brush. And I just gently start going around and distressing it. I went around all of the circular edges so that it looked like enamel wear. And where I feel like it, I just add some distressing. This part is always frightening. But here's what it looks like all done. And I am so happy with the look of this. I ended up using it as the anchor point to my coffee bar. I'm able to hang fruit in it. I've tested the weight. It goes up to about 3 pounds, and after that it does pull the loop off. So if you did want to use this as a permanent holder for fruit or something, I would just add a little bit of glue inside where that binder clip is holding the chains to the bottom of that U-bolt. So I ended up spending $3.57 to make this whole thing by the time I bought the chain, had the image printed, bought the pie tin, and the cake pan. And I think this beats the heck out of buying an actual vintage scale. So if you've stayed till the end, I have a little favor to ask. I don't know what YouTube is doing, but lately I've been getting non-stop comments about we haven't been getting video notifications. We just looked and we've missed half a dozen or more videos. Why aren't we getting notifications? We're subscribed. We've got your notifications checked. What's going on? I don't have an answer, but I kind of want to investigate this and see what's happening. So my favor is I have a video. Here's the link. Here's the video if you want to go into the description below. I'm asking if you will watch this video. It's just over 5 minutes. You don't even have to watch the whole thing. But after you've watched it or while you're watching it, leave me a quick comment about, did it, watched it, here you go, so that I can see how many views it got from this video and how many views are actually reported on it. Is that shady? I can't help it. I just want to know what's going on because it seems like I'm getting hundreds of comments too, which I love reading all of your comments. And then YouTube says you got 29 views. I'm like, wait, how did I get 200 comments, but there's only 29 views? That doesn't make any sense, YouTube. So if you could help me out, I just want to see if it's really lining up. And if it's not, then I could start working with somebody at YouTube to find out why things aren't syncing up. So if you have a few minutes to do that, that would be great. I always appreciate what you do by coming by, saying hello, leaving me comments. If you could click that like button and subscribe, that would really help me out too. But it would also let you know when the next video is coming out, which is going to be those canisters that we're going to dupe and that bread box. And again, if you don't like the vintage look, you can make these any way that you like. But thank you for stopping by and saying hello today. And as always, thank you to my patrons who allow me to make these videos. If you would like to join my Patreon, that information is down in the description below, and subscriptions start at a very low price. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in just a few days. Bye.